We're not going to go all the way through this one, just far enough. This is Colonel Anthony Schaefer being interviewed by Alex Jones. Now, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer is active duty, so listen to what he has to say. It'll, curl your toes.
Jones.
Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer is with us for the rest of the hour. He's going to be on MSNBC and RT today. So he's done a lot of new research on the Iran situation. It's continually changing very quickly. He headed up Operation Stratus Ivy. And, of course, Able Danger. He could have been able to kill bin Laden on multiple occasions and was blocked from doing so. His book that came out last year, Operation Dark Heart, was a New York Times bestseller, but they blocked it for a while and excised a bunch of it out. Basically as punishment, because a lot of what was in there that they even excised out had already been reported. It was just from eyewitness accounts, so that was a way to punish him. I've got him on about Iran, about Syria, about where all this is going, but I wanted to first, because he was on hold listening during the last short segment, the fact that everywhere I go now, there's just regular Army, Marines, National Guard searching people. At Zilker Park, it's just a giant park, just random military touching people, herding children around. I've got articles here where they plan to use FEMA. Here's the Washington Post from 2003. Many anti-terror plans would stop parents from picking up children. I sent my reporters to Denver last year during a giant urban warfare terrorism drill, a tabletop exercise. And sure enough, they were practicing taking kids to the sports stadiums. Super creepy. Total acclamation for military operations. And now they've gotten rid of Posse Comitatus, basically, with this NDAA. Bruce Fine, constitutional scholar, congressional advisor, has said it is treason. Countless, Bob Barr, former congressman, former CIA, he says it's totally illegal. But we don't even need them to tell us that. This is blatant what you see in third world countries. And thank God our military has a long history of following the Bill of Rights and Constitution. We're not Venezuela or Nigeria, but they're trying their hardest. Instead, they're doing what Hitler did, the out-of-control bureaucracies are. They're creating a brown shirt. Stalin opened the prisons up and hired low-wage, kind of just thugs, to be his frontline goons, because the history of the Russian military, who wasn't perfect, they still wouldn't do the type of purges that Lenin and then Stalin wanted. So that's what they're doing. Now, that's my view on this. The TSA is now in Dallas, sticking their hands in people's pants at the train stations and bus stations. They're now in San Antonio. They now have military police in San Antonio at the Riverwalk, where I used to go a few times a year. I was there, and I can't stand it. Looking at you, talking to you with sidearms on. I want to talk to Colonel Schaefer about this right now before we get into the huge issues with Iran and the rest of it. But clearly they're gearing up for a big war and then counterstrikes by Iran. And instead of them actually going after any assets, you guaranteed it's going to be used against the American people, as the Homeland Security documents that I received from law enforcement 3 years ago that made national news show. They say the #1 threats returning veterans, gun owners, libertarians, conservatives. So that's my briefing to everybody. And I know that's a large statement, Colonel Schaefer, but I wanted to state that wider spectrum of data points to where you'd have to be blind out there if there's new listeners to not know this is crossing the Rubicon. This is third world. This is North Korea. This is scary. What do you say to all that?
Well, I agree with you 100% regarding the Posse Comitatus issue. I'm one of the folks. I actually was in hearings in front of the House, the Senate Judiciary Committee back in 2005 on this very issue, and frankly, one of the things that held us back from doing everything we could have was Posse Comitatus. And I argue there's justification for working within the framework of Posse Comitatus, but in the case of the new NDAA, which was signed by the President at the end of December, there's no justification. And essentially, just so your audience understands what happened, the President has declared that anywhere in the world is now a battlefield. That is to say that where you're sitting this minute, where I'm sitting this minute, is technically a battle space, and therefore he has ultimate, absolute authority to do whatever the hell he wants, whenever he wants, to deem anyone a threat. And by the way, there's no oversight for how you go through a process of establishing someone's potential as a threat. And so Bruce Fine is a very close friend of mine, a constitutional scholar, who has said very clearly that there is no legal basis for the NDAA to expand those level of authorities to the president. Now, there's been two clear abuses of this so far, and frankly, it preceded the NDAA. One is the assassination of Anwar al-Awlaki and his son. They are U.S. citizens. I don't care how you feel about them. I really don't. But the premise was, well, you know, they're bad people, so we should kill them. Wrong answer. They were bad people, and they clearly violated the U.S. law, and bring them to justice. Justice means giving them due process.
Well, you think you'd want to get a hold of them to get the so-called intelligence, but expanding on that,
there you go.
That sets the precedent to kill anybody.
And that's my thing as an intelligence officer. I'm glad you brought it up, because I always say, you know, I am for the idea of live captures because dead men literally don't tell any tales. So you've got to consider the intelligence value and why they're doing that, I believe, in the case of Anwar al-Awlaki before 9/11. And Alex, frankly, you know, that's one of the things that no one wanted to come out, that this guy had been a double, triple agent, and they were actually working with him, with the FBI.
Colonel, I'm sorry to interrupt, but your phone cut out during that key point. Go back a minute ago, back to the beginning of Awlaki. Start over.
Awlaki was actually an asset of the FBI before 9/11. So, frankly, Alex, one of the things this administration was doing on behalf of all administrations was covering their tracks. Anwar al-Awlaki had a documented relationship with the U.S. government and the Federal Bureau of Investigation preceding. This is before 9/11. So what they were doing, Alex, was going back covering their tracks. But beyond that, they have established, my second point, a star chamber, if you will, where you now have at least 4 to 5 U.S. citizens. That is to say, people of our status, your status, my status, any status of a U.S. citizen on the kill capture list. And no one knows how they got there, why they got there, what do you do to get yourself off the list, and oh, by the way, what justifies the unilateral use of deadly force when no one can actually define what they did that was so threatening to the foundation of the Constitution that allows them to be assassinated on sight. So this is where we're going with this, and I hope your audience understands this is not theoretical. This is not basically someone trying to drum up an area which, you know, that is fictional. This is truth. This is in the NDA. The language can be read by anybody. And the presidential signing statement, which he implemented, is basically he says, well, yeah, I got this authority, but I'm not going to abuse it. And if you believe that, then you believe all the other things the president said over the past 3 years, which have never come through. So I have a real problem with it, and your listeners should too.
Okay, I brought us out of that early because basically, well, that's a good thing for you to go and check out yourself. It's amazing. And the key thing there, I mean, they're kind of really hitting on the NDAA, which is really important in its, you know, unconstitutional nature. I'm getting tongue-tied there. But what they're skipping over, he just kind of said in passing, that this guy was an FBI asset all the way up to 9/11. And that really fits in with what Sybil Edmonds had been saying and got so harassed for. But the point is, you know, here's the FBI covering up their tracks, or whoever sent the drone, basically. They had no reason to get the guy and no legal basis to do it, but they did anyway. So I'm going to go on to the very next one here that I have. It's another Alex Jones one. Now, see, that last one was just March 5th. But since then, we've had another thing happen. Obama, as you know, had sent our troops to attack Libya back when. And people were saying, hey, wait a minute, isn't Congress supposed to be the one that's, declare war and send troops? The president can't do that. And everybody just kind of let it slide. Well, they were talking about that in Congress. They were grilling Leon Panetta, and it's absolutely amazing. They said, no, we don't have to talk to the Congress anymore, the president and his representatives said. I'm going to just play this, and we'll let Alex rant it out, and then I'm going to play the actual clip of the Congress questioning Leon Panetta. So here we go.
Openly announcing torture, secret arrest, all of this is because they're getting ready to use it. They want to tell their militarized police that it's okay, we passed a law.
They've had laws saying black people weren't human. Doesn't make them legal or lawful. Marbury versus Madison breaks that down. Look at that ruling. And many others. I'll see you on the radio this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. and back next week. Reporting for Infowars.com. Unfortunately, our analysis of the globalist takeover of the United States has proven stunningly accurate. An open coup d'etat has been carried out by the private central banks over Europe. Even Time magazine calls it a banker coup d'etat. And the very same financial interests that print and issue currency out of nothing have bought off most of our Congress and the executive and many state governors and legislatures. But a lot of people are starting to wake up. And Obama, last year with the Libya war, told Congress, I don't need your authorization for a war, and put out a public letter when Congress threatened to impeach him, saying, I get my authority from the UN. That was treason. That was an impeachable offense. And now, in the House and Senate, legislation has been introduced in the House by Walter Jones of North Carolina to begin the impeachment process if Obama launches any more wars without congressional approval. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 12. It's the law. But Obama has gone beyond treason, and his handlers have. When the Secretary of Defense and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs 2 days ago went before the Senate and told him, we don't need to consult you on a new war in Syria that the U.S. military is about to get involved in. We have authority from the UN and NATO. This isn't just a president declaring dictatorial powers. That's bad enough. This is a president operating as an operative of a foreign power that controls these corporate interests. And that's exactly what's happened in the euro now. The bureaucrats controlled by the big banks set up new rules and then transfer the sovereignty into that and tell the European nations you can't get out of the euro and you'll pay whatever taxes we say. When the debt isn't even those nations, it's the big banks that set it up and hold everybody hostage with too big to fail. But the good news is there's major talk of impeachment. This is outrageous. But of course there's got to be talk of impeachment. There should be immediate impeachment. This is a coup d'etat against our republic. Now, all over the United States, they're having military and TSA checkpoints now. The John Warner Defense Authorization Act of 2007 admitted that they're preparing the military for war against the states if they try to secede. But there's state nullification going on all over the country. And the feds say the states aren't allowed to nullify federal stuff. In fact, there shouldn't even be a state. The feds run everything. But now the globalists have gone one further. They're telling the Congress that they don't count when they're over the purse and the military and commission the officers and direct the president in war. They tell the commander-in-chief what to do. They give him a bill of war, a declaration of war, or a directive, and then he executes it with his war cabinet within those narrow parameters. Okay? So now the feds have told the states that they don't have any authority. That's fraudulent. Now the globalists and the UN through the president are telling the Congress that they're vestigial and ceremonial. And it's finally waking up the Congress and a lot of other people. So call the House Judiciary Committee. I gave the number out on the radio today. Call Talk Radio. Write letters to the editor. This is the big issue, not what Kim Kardashian's doing, calling for a new globalist invasion of Africa to get some new boogeyman, when it's really about 700 million barrels of oil, where these different groups are in Uganda. This is the real issue actually affecting our country. And I want to warn the globalists, and I want to warn all their minions and the rest of them, and traitors, collaborators that are working with these foreign banks to capture the United States. We saw all-time doubling of gun sales when Obama was president-elect in 2008, 2009. Those numbers were again doubled in 2011. And they're now reporting a 60+% increase on top of that doubling of a doubling. They're selling out of guns everywhere. Smith & Wesson is backlogged 6 weeks in manufacturing. I was talking to a gunsmith and gun shop owner just the other day, and he was saying, you can't get anything. The people are snatching the ammo, the guns, and they've done studies. I'm going to show you some of these articles. And they've said, we're buying all of these guns because we don't trust the government and we think it's traitorous. And remember, Obama said he was going to get the better clingers, that cling to their guns. People know tyranny's here. They know the federal government's illegitimate. It's telling the Congress go to hell, which is the real government. This is incredible. And I don't want a civil war in this country. But the establishment should understand, people are buying guns because they know the government's out of control and criminal. Congress has a 9% approval rating. You got a bunch of dependent people and folks that buy into the whole liberal conservative paradigm